Progressives Congress presidential candidate Bola Tinubu as president-elect. Now, the former Lagos State governor was declared president-elect after polling 8,794,726 votes to win the 2023 presidential elections.
Well, what can we say? I think there's palpable, um, or how would I call it, uncommon quiet in the country at this time right now as people are making up their minds and trying to get round the announcement of the president-elect by INEC. I think that took place around 4 a.m. They were up all night making the count. INEC was trying to summarize the final collation, as some would call it, allocation of the presidential election that took place last Saturday. Now, you see, from the results that were given, APC was at 8.79 with about 12 states. Same with the PDP that had about 6.9 in the second position with about 11 states, whereas
12 also.
LP also had 11 states plus the FCT, with the MPP at a distant fourth at 1.4 million naira. Now, what this is the presentation. The last statements that the INEC chairman said before he closed the collation room was that the certificate of return would be given today by 3 p.m. to the president-elect. Now, this is the result that we have seen as of the point of INEC. Questions obviously are scattering everybody's mind, because if you remember, and if, as we all knew, because many have not slept since this collation room started, this election has been marred and wrought with all forms of malpractice, questions, and challenges. And at the very top of it was the functionality of the BVAS machine and the inability of it to transmit results electronically from the polling station to the collation room. So this result is actually the outcome of physical transportation of results from the local government to the state collation rooms to the national collation room. And that question has not been answered, as to why what was promised Nigerians in terms of a free and fair election, or an election where each and every one of them could defend their votes, was possible. We will speak more to this, but this is the current position as of the point of INEC, and it definitely is an election that has left many people with many questions as to whether this is the truth about what they did on Saturday.
So let me chime in. Let me chime in very quickly. So this is an exercise that was shoddily conducted. There were many questions, like they did allude to when you were speaking. Now, the provisions of the Electoral Act are clear. Section 60, subsection 5 of the Electoral Act makes it mandatory for results from polling units to be transmitted to the server. What we then witnessed was an aberration of the highest order, manual transmission. We've gone beyond that point. Then you then have section 134, subsection 2b of the Nigerian Constitution that says to be declared the winner, you have to get the highest number of votes. You need to get at least 1/4 of the votes cast in 2/3 of the federation and the FCT. The APC did not get 25% in the FCT. So how in the name of anything good were they declared the winners?
Lakaway, do you want to add?
Maybe I should first start from the last thing. I think that in 2015, President Buhari didn't get 25% in Abuja, but he was declared winner. So I think that issue, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that the English, the authors of the Constitution, may not have meant it the way many of us are interpreting it. But of course, we'll subject it to some kind of arbitration at the Supreme Court, right? So I would not want to dwell so much on that. But me, I would like to speak to this election from the perspective of the apathy that obviously we witnessed. If we put all the votes of all these four major candidates together,
Apathy.
I'm not
People
sure.
came out.
I'm not sure it's even up to the number of people who voted, the number of votes that the president had in 2015 or 2019. I think President Buhari won in 2019 with 28 million or so.
So you
I mean,
got 18
18 million. Okay, so this one put together, all of them together is about 22 million. Then if you look at the spread of the increment in number of registered voters, 2019 to 2023, the maximum you see anywhere was, I think, Jigawa State with about 20% growth in number of registered voters. Does it then mean that people didn't register enough? We all know the problem with the registration, that INEC, whatever.
Or that they didn't
So
come out.
yeah, exactly. Or that it didn't come out. Even after that, then, so Lagos, for example, had 7 million registered voters for this election. So as
6.2 million collected the PVC.
6.2 million collected PVCs, and then on election day we had a little bit over 1
No,
million.
we didn't have INEC claimed. We did not have more.
Let us
came
work.
out.
Let us work with the numbers that we
With
saw.
the official figures?
Yes, I'm not. I don't want to be preemptive. I don't want to suggest anything. I just want to work with the figures that are with us.
Right.
So if we have only 1 million, I can use the example of my polling unit. There are 1,000 of us in that polling unit, according to the list that was pasted before we started the election. At the time we finished, when everybody voted, because I actually assisted, we provided chairs, whatever, cabinets, and everything for the election people. We arranged people, senior citizens, and all that. By the time we finished the elections and the results were announced, only 250 of us out of 1,000 came to vote. Right? So the next polling booth was had about 300 and something. Only 37 people came to vote. The next one to that one of about 326, less than 100 came to vote. So I can say categorically that, at least from the three examples of what I witnessed in where I live, right, I can say that there was a lot of voter apathy. We create, I said it the last time before the elections, that we have created this fear environment. And I think that a lot of people stayed away because of that fact only. And these are the things that we need to speak to. The more we are voting, the more difficult it is to rig these elections or whatever it is that's going to happen. So those are the things that we need to also concentrate on. While INEC may have its own problems, and I think that we should also not try to heat up the politics as it's already, everybody's on the edge. We should try to assuage people. Let us follow the right things to be done. Let us follow it to the end of the road.
That's where many
That
people.
like finished it, bro.
No, he's finished now.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
I'm just saying that I'm trying to measure the output because we can't finish it in this short hours that we have. And you see, I the only way you're going to keep Nigerians calm is by dealing with the truth. If you tell Nigerians to do the right thing, you're going to spark the largest form of anger, because in this process we have seen deprivation, injustice in everybody's eye. It's not because we're saying it on the television, whether government recognizes it or not. Now, my point is this: remember the issues of the economy, insecurity, the naira scarcity, the fuel scarcity that was there. We went into an election challenge. On top, despite that, people still showed up, and at the end of the day, we saw all forms of electoral violence, voter suppression, places that people did not vote, their result sheets were being uploaded. We saw places where in some cases, the security forces, alongside hoodlums, were there when ballot boxes were being stolen. And at the end of the day, we now saw the collation, and within the collation, the crux of this whole matter was that the beavers would prevent this. And then we now saw issues where the beavers had, in quote, what they claimed, that's INEC, there were technical glitches. It wasn't able to upload these results. Then we started seeing results come in trickles, and those results were at random or at variance with what the party agents had signed. I mean, it's all over the internet as to what is real and what is fake. We now saw apprehension and even some level of political party challenge during the collation center, whereby some parties challenged the INEC chairman that you are not giving us the opportunity, which you said was a constitutional right and process, to be able to defend what you're saying with the results that should have been uploaded by the Beavers. Now, you see, when you still say we should do the right thing, at that time, people were suing for calm. Now, the INEC chairman, at the end of the day, to all the concerns of the parties and all the press statements, said that by law, he needs to get to the end of the process. And if he gets to the end of the process, he is empowered to review. And I was waiting last night to see the review. What happened, which we all knew. He got to the end, collated all the results, right, from each of the states, and then read the summary. And from the summary, he then announced who was the president-elect.
All right, David, let's look at a few messages coming through. Gab says, we must use laid-down structures to address our grievances. Peace is a better option always. Adiola says the winner got less than 40% of total votes. With this political geography, Nigeria needs to be urgently unified as the social fault lines are too visible. Congratulations and best wishes to the president-elect. And Shegun says, long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We should be respectful and peaceful in victory and defeat and stay safe. It's time for Nigeria to make progress. Jim says there was no apathy, rather a systemic disenfranchisement. And all right, let's go on to take a break, but we'll continue the conversation on the other side. This is Freshly Pressed on Smooth and 98.1. We love to see your messages. The WhatsApp number again is 0809 444 981. And we can also you can also catch the live stream up on YouTube at Smooth 981. Stay with us.
Quick question.
Sorry, I'm waiting for the next story because that's where this whole matter blows up.
Sorry?
President Buhari telling us.
Yeah,
No,
we've already kind of.
No, we have not to. We
the
have not to.
statements
We're
for
still
those who are aggrieved. Go
Leave
to
it now.
court.
Leave it now.
We will pieces that thing.
okay.
Where are the people rejoicing over this victory? Are they
Well,
not
because
in
they're not rejoicing, there's only some others
People
out
will
there
rejoice now.
rejoicing.
They are not
Somewhere.
aware.
People are
There are some
rejoicing.
others only PC who will rejoice now. What are you saying now?
Some people
rejoicing in
are.
the streets or in
Wherever, people will rejoice now.
Because it's 7:45 in the
That's,
morning.
that's what I'm waiting for.
really?
I'm waiting for the
very
court.
early.
I'm waiting for the court statement. Let us take it from the court
Sorry?
statement.
It might fall. You were dragging
Yes,
Oh,
now
thank
that
you.
is the crux of the statement. He congratulated the
They
winner.
say you should go
Fine.
to court, Abi.
Yes, if you're a big go to court, then we will respond.
Okay, so we're just going to touch on that really lightly and then move on because we have way more stories. And we can talk more about this on Lagos Talk.
It is the only thing we speak about in this press review.
Thank God, politics tomorrow. Alright.
was on Lagos.
I think I'll leave you guys. I'll drop out now.
No, stay. You have started. You stay.
No,
Mr. C,
left the
once you
building.
start, you must finish.
Mr. C has
Lock
left.
the door.
We will sack you. We will remove you from this republic. President Zippy is talking.
I know.
If I stay here.
Mr. C, we're alive. Thank you. Oh my God.
It's not funny. It's not really funny. Is that what?
The cameras are still rolling.
I do. Yes.
Never changing in terms of the traffic. Even though the
Yes,
president
Taylor.
came home to the need. A city that never sleeps. A city that has it all in one. Lagos, the heartbeat of Africa. What's your dream? Bring it to Lagos. Chances are you may actualize your dream. My name is Shego Alimpe. My Lagos.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. It's Zibby and my analyst for the morning, Devo Lakule, and Mr. C just stepped out really quickly. But yeah, you can of course catch the live stream. It's up on YouTube. Just search for Smooth 981 on YouTube. You can also send messages through via WhatsApp. The number is 0809 444 981. Let's look at some messages coming through. I'm going to take one from YouTube, the live stream. This one is from Ifituri. Ifituri says, People also didn't care to vote. In Surulere, people were taking walks, playing football, and just faffing around instead of voting. Why do people who choose not to vote always play football, though? I'm curious about that. There needs to be another form of recreation.
Football is the cheapest sport to partake in. All you need, you can even use paper to form a ball, So.
Oh, wow. Not much effort, not much resources. Okay. And let's go on to the next story. We're going to touch on this briefly and then move on because we'll speak further about this on Lagos Talks. Now, the president has congratulated the winner of the 2023 presidential elections, and he's also told candidates who may have grievances to take these grievances to court and not to the streets. And he said, I congratulate His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu on his victory. Elected by the people, he's the best person for the job. I shall now work with him and his team to ensure an orderly handover of power.
Well, we all know historically President Buhari had always insisted that vote for who you like. He had tried his possible best, even as partisan as he should have been, because of course he's a member of a political party, and he has tried to distance himself as much as possible officially from the electioneering campaign. And whichever way this election may have gone, he would have had no choice but to congratulate the winner anyway. So he's congratulated Senator Bola Tinubu for the victory, and he's also advised all those who feel aggrieved to approach the courts. Now, the point I would like to focus on here is that maybe this is perhaps the second time we are going to have transition from within the same party. I think the first one was from, not this is the third time it's going to happen here. The one I was going to particularly focus on is the transition between President Obasanjo and Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, and a lot of things were left hanging after when Shehu Musa Yar'Adua became Shehu. Yeah, I'm correct, right? When Umar Yar'Adua became president, and that he had to reverse a lot of decisions that the previous government had taken. I hope that this promise that is going to work with this president-elect, and that we will have a smooth transition, and everything that may be the gray areas that they may have, they'll be able to iron them out, and so that we're not having so much reversals of government policies. I hope that will not happen. And I hope that it will be able to, the present administration would give enough advices and documentation of where they are with everything, so that this government, or whichever government eventually gets sworn in on May 29th, and that we can have a smooth running of government. There will be no destructions.
Yeah. Let me just say this, and I was waiting for the president's response. You see, right now there is an uneasy quietness around the country because of this election. Not only has it been the lowest outturn in terms of numbers, there was greater interest in participation, even though it was not recorded by way of all the glitches that took place with INEC. Now, the president, having congratulated the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he made some statements about where to take your grievance to. He said, of course, there will always be areas that need work to bring further transparency and credibility to the voting procedure. However, none of these issues registered represent a challenge to the freeness and fairness of election. Okay? Meaning that whatever happened, in his view, the election was free and fair. Now, he said, I know some politicians and candidates may not agree with this view. This too is fine. If any candidate believes that they can prove the fraud they claim is committed against them, then bring forward the evidence. If they cannot, then we must conclude that the election was indeed the people's will, no matter how hard that may be for the losers to accept. Now, you see, this is bordering on hard facts or people's conjecture, speculation. And what he's saying here is that if you have proof, then let's proceed to the courts. Remember, there was a time when, I can't remember the election, that the tribunals took way more than the time that was allotted, and it was finally written in the National Assembly that tribunals will last 3 months after any election so that it can be done with all the disputes. What we have seen in the past, let's call it 15 years, is that the Supreme Court, where most of these cases and disputes will land in, have not been the exact representation of justice and transparency with the people. Now, that's why they say justice must be seen to have been done and not just based on the fact that the court claims that they could only make positions based on the evidence in front of them. Now, yes, we eschew violence and ask Nigerians to hold your evidence on ground because this is a marathon, it's a long game. If you feel aggrieved that justice was not done, or if you feel it wasn't transparent, or if you feel you have been cheated, or if you feel you have been deprived. However, you see, the biggest issue in Nigeria is the lack or the absence of trust, the trust deficit with government, because in instance on top of instance we have seen what they call the abortion of law, the abortion of truth, the abortion of what we hold dear as patriotic Nigerians. And if the president is holding this position, then I expect the same vein to be carried out once these reviews begin. Now, remember, the Labour Party's candidate, Peter Obi, he had the same issue, and I think I don't have all my facts here. He had the same issue when he was in Anambra, and at the end of the day, between him and some other candidates, they were also able to win in the courts of law. Now, I hope, really, because I hope that the aim is not for the judiciary to always to be bastardized as well. I hope that.
Okay, Devo, let's just look at some messages that we have coming through. The WhatsApp number 0809 4440981. Michael says, in my polling unit, 582 were supposed voters. Only 78 showed up to vote. Others refused to come. Abbas says, 25% in 24 states, and the FCT is not same as 25% in 24 states and 25% in the FCT. Why are we introducing something that is simple to understand just because some do not like how it's gone? The election has been marred with some irregularities, but across board, regions and players got served in one way or the other. Some of the sitting governors even lost their states to opposition. All right, let's go on to the message. I'm going to pull one up from our YouTube live stream. Now, while I try to do that, you can, of course, keep them coming. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. Michael Vad Stream says, well, in my PU, it did seem it was inconclusive and rather disappointing. Some will develop apathy over and over. Okay, so let's move on to the next story. We have about just under 4 minutes to go, and this one has to do with the economy and security. Let's go on to the nation. Chief of Army Staff General Farouk Yahya has urged Nigerians to play an active role in tackling insurgency in the country. Now, he said this at a seminar organized by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development.
Right. I think that if the Chief of Army Staff and any of the leadership of the security apparatus of this country is asking for individuals, for the citizens to cooperate, I think that they are now asking for too much. I can't imagine how much more people will cooperate. I mean, particularly for these incidences of banditry and the insurgency in the northeast and the northwest, particularly, even in the southwest. I think so. What I think we should be doing now is use what you already have. We know where the hotspots are. Can we clear those places of those things? Yes, there can be enough information to the security force agencies. There can never be more than enough. Yes, but I think that they need to win the trust of the people much more than just saying people should come willingly. If you ask an average Nigerian today that would you go and report a case to the police or something, they will tell you no. And of course, we all know why. You know, so it is a trust that they need to earn first before they ask for this kind of thing from people. By and large, I think that people have cooperated enough. They've reported and that's the basis with which a lot of the arrests, a lot of the victories that they've recorded in those places have happened. So they need to reciprocate that goodwill of the people. Yes, asking them for more is okay, but they need to earn the trust first. That's what I think about it.
Devo?
No comments.
All right, that is fine. We have just under a minute to go on Freshly Pressed, and this one is coming from Punch. The Abia State chapter of the NLC has embarked on an indefinite strike following the failure of the state to clear the backlog of unpaid salaries and pension arrears in the state.
Well, it's an old story. I think because of the new NLC president, Joe Ajero, he has a history of being very combative. Let's see whether they can come through for their workers. The problem is state governments must come to terms with how they treat their workers. You can't go months on months without payment and still expect service, talk less of good service, because I don't think any of the executive administer without being paid. So agreement is agreement. What is fair is fair.
All right, thank you for that. And I see your messages, but we are out of time, so we can't take any more messages. But we'll continue the conversation around the elections on Lagos Talks, and that starts from 9 o'clock right here on the Smooth Breakfast. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your messages. And of course, thanks once again to my analysts this morning, Lakunle and Deville.
Always my president, Zibi.
Thank you. President's taking on a new meaning now. Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
You first.